A very good afternoon to you and to you all, and thank you for joining me, which I hope to be a stimulating thought regarding a very different subject. And I don't want to start this talk off with any fear whatsoever, and I'll explain that as I go along. But I've been approached by some people to talk about the spirit board known as the Ouija board. For me, I am going to share my view with you, and please understand this is my view regarding spirit boards, Ouija boards. We all have opinions and we all have our own experiences. And for myself, if I was to ask you, what do you see? You will see this mouse mat by Sonia Rinaldi with Tesla and a spirit picture of Tesla. And if you ask me, what do I see? I will say I see something which is very black. So who is right and who is wrong? We're only seeing the truth from different angles. But I'm here to plead a case, if I can. First of all, let me just explain to all of you a little bit about my background. Now, this is not an ego thought, and neither is it me pulling rank on anyone or saying I know more than others. But through my 25 years of investigating, is it possible for communication with the unseen? I am being given so many titles to describe my work, being a physical medium, trance medium, and autostate medium. I am a seeker of the truth, and I will continue to seek for all eternity, because there are no answers. There are only questions which will lead you to a greater question, or a step which will lead you to the next one. I've been lucky and blessed to demonstrate around the world and to share my views on a word called Seance, which means meeting. During the investigation, I've started to notice that we may have to use tools to aid the communication, and depending on where we are in life is how we use those tools. Now, if there is fear at any point in communicating with the spirit world, I would say to you, just stop. If there's fear in any way to use a tool, then I say stop. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we got to look, first of all, a medium is psychic. A medium is able to spiritualize the atmosphere so that the unseen may be heard, and through their senses bring back memories to the person in front. Whilst the medium's mind is being used, the energy around them can be manipulated to create spiritual phenomena, be it knocking, raps, voices, objects moving which has meaning to the person in front, and the list goes on and on. Everyone who breathes air is psychic, because psychic is soul. We all have a soul, but not all psychics are mediums. So psychics can produce a psychic power which has no connection to the spirit world. With psychic power, it can react to happiness, it can react to excitement, it can react to anger, it can react to fear, and the list goes on with human emotion. So if you are approaching the idea of communication with the spirit world and you have fear, you may create an atmosphere that is going to respond back to you. So fear will breed fear. Happiness will breed happiness. Now, when people pass from this world, they maintain their personality. I'm going to retain everything about me. Hopefully the imperfections of who I am will fade away, and the very best of my nature will ooze out. But when I go to speak to my family members through a medium, I will retain my personality. People who know Earthly Scott know that I love a joke. I am incredibly rude in the sense of swearing to me is like poetry. But when I talk like this, I am respectful because I'm respecting and representing the spirit world and the world in which I love. But everyone who knows me when I'm off duty, I like to break wind. I swear. I do like to drink alcohol when the time is appropriate, and I eat a lot of junk food. So when I'm communicating through a medium, I will bring my personality, which people will recognize straight away. So a good medium can bring personality and presence. And you not only would remember my memories that I'm sharing through a medium, but we'll be able to create an atmosphere and you'll say, I felt Scott in the room. A psychic will have to read off the soul of the person in front. So as a psychic, I can go into your life through the atmosphere around you. I could go back into your childhood. I could probably get you information about your future. I could go back into your mother's health, and I can go back into what your mother was doing before you were born, because it stays in the lineage of your auric field, which is the emulation of your soul. Now you may say, Scott, what's this got to do about Ouija boards? You have lost the plot. Whenever we work with tools, we have to give of ourselves. So, for instance, if someone is not mediumistic and uses the Ouija board and there's fear there, it will respond in that manner. And people may say that's a malevolent spirit. They may say it is an evil spirit. It isn't, but it's the atmosphere that oozes from us. Now, two types of phenomena. Spirit-induced phenomena through a medium will have intelligence. So, for instance, like I said, if this was belonging to my father is talking to me or talking through a medium, I say, Dad, could you show me a sign? And this lifted up and moved across and landed next to me, then, oh my God, that belonged to my dad. It's responding, therefore it's intelligent. If it flew and hit me and was quite strong and very painful, or it flew and hit up the wall, or you would have other things happening, it's psychic phenomena having no intelligence whatsoever. It's quite destructive. We normally get destructive psychic phenomena when a child is going through the cycle of womanhood or adulthood. And that is because the auric field is finding identity. And that's why your little angels do become little monsters. And you'll get these funny sounds in your house. And because the auric field is on fire, it is so strong because it's trying to find identity. And that's why the teenagers are normally very tired, because psychically they're burning very, very fast. Now, isn't it interesting, when we are younger, when we are a little bit more braver, we may use the Ouija board, and you may have an experience what has terrified you ever since then. And that could be, again, to do with a psychic power. So if you put your finger on the glass and it just doesn't necessarily spell out anything intelligent, it just spells out gobbledygook, you may think, oh goodness, and it will lie to you. So you may think of someone, so you may be sitting there thinking, oh, I wonder if my Nan's there, and it starts to respond. But then you start to question Nan and say, Nan, what was your name? And it spells out Barry. And you think, no, my Nan's name isn't Barry, that's a man's name. And you may think, hang on, there's someone creeping in. And that's because what's happening is that the psychic, the excited person or fearful person, as it starts to move, may be thinking, I would wonder if Nan's around. So it's going to respond to that. But then the subconscious, on an unconscious level, things will start to then alter and change and come out through the Ouija board. The Ouija board, when it's done, is absolutely, and if it's done correctly, is an amazing tool. Now, for someone who's dyslexic like me, it's a horror film, because when it starts spelling out stuff, I can't read it. It's like Morse code. I don't understand it. So it's easier for the spirit world to impress upon my mind what they're trying to say. And then I say, are you saying this is Dad or Nan? And it will respond, yes. Just say, Nan, if this is you, can you try and just remind me of something? And then normally I have to use Google afterwards and say, what did Google say? And then it will read it back to me. But understand, ladies and gentlemen, as I just pause just for a moment, this is only my view, but I'm going to plead my case a little bit stronger, if that's okay. So the Ouija board is a tool. Now, you've probably all seen them before. This is a handmade one using Scrabble letters. And then you get some fancy ones. And then you get some beautiful art ones as well. See, I like this because I like animals. It's nothing special, but Ouija boards seem to always emulate skulls or things that doesn't look exactly happy. And that also adds to the fear and excitement. And a lot of people may find when they are doing the Ouija board that some level, there's that fear. Now, as a spiritualist, throughout our training, where it may have come from many different sources, you may have come across someone who says, look, don't touch it. And again, curiosity may get the better of you. And again, at a certain layer, there may be something there. Now, when you are looking at the Ouija board, it is how you approach it. Now, it's a tool, isn't it? It's a tool. If I was to place in your hand this pen, for instance, it is merely a pen, but it can do a lot of damage, besides poking yourself in the eye. But it can do a lot of damage because you can write positive and you can write negative. A single word can start a war, and a single word can keep you friends forever. Again, it's how you motivate and how you move it. Same with the Seance trumpet. The Seance trumpet is, again, if there's fear, you may find it, if it is able to create some kind of psychic phenomena, it may go up and smack the ceiling and come straight back down quite aggressively. But again, what is that proving? If you said, spirit friends, if you're there, are you able to then control the trumpet? And the trumpet lifted up and started to move round and go over to someone and just sit here and stroke you. And the medium may say, I've got your father here. And can you show me a yes? And the trumpet may pull back and do this. Show me a no, the classic things. Or tap once for yes, 2 for no, 3 for don't know. And then you ask your questions. So again, it's how you motivate yourself to use one of these instruments. But what is the difference between a Ouija board and table tilting? What's the difference between table tilting and doing trumpet phenomena? It's a gradual progress. I think really, ladies and gentlemen, is because we don't hear the spirit world sometimes, and they start to spell things, and it may spell out, you little bleeder, obviously maybe a little bit stronger, and you think, oh, I don't know, but then someone can turn around and say, that's Nan, that's how my Nan used to speak. And you're like, okay, cool, let's go with it. Are you able to tell me who you wish to speak to? And it may spell out the name of the sitter, or it may move the glass over to the person, and then it go now, 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 or something, and then you respond to it. For me, if I could go sideways just for a moment, we always seem to open in prayer, well, I do anyway, and my prayer is merely to spiritualize the atmosphere that I sit in. It is there to knock for my friends from the spirit world, to let them know that I'm ready, and we set the intent of love. I personally have never asked for protection. The only reason I don't is because I trust my friends. I trust them with my eternal life. And my friends are there solely to win the reason. If you feel you need protection, then please add that into your prayer. But again, if you're asking for protection, you're leaving a layer of your sense saying there's something fearful. And a simple word, is that going to keep you in that wonderful place, or is it just going to feel a little bit more guarded? The spirit world don't mind what you do. They love you. But when you use as anything to aid the spirit world, I always ask in my prayers, I always say, and I'll use an example, and it isn't a very basic example. I would say, as I take a breath, I offer it to you, the beloved unseen, so that I can find the strength to climb the steps to the altar of peace. May my love wrap around your world and offer to you now. And whatever you need from me, take it, so that we can build that bridge between our worlds. If there is things to be said, may my voice be strong to carry it. If these hands are used to heal, may they be anointed with the healing balm. So I'd use some kind of words like that, but not once did I say, look, please, with your shield and sword, protect me. I don't, because that doesn't feel right for my little soul here. So for me, I approach the seance room, I approach my work like I am approaching a sanctuary of peace. And I'm here to take my shoes off and respect the atmosphere and respect everything that I do. Now, when you work with the Ouija board or with the Seance trumpet, you've got to be at your best. You've got to be at your best. So drinking alcohol isn't going to help. It isn't going to aid your communication, because mentally capacity, you're not going to be there. But isn't it quite often when you have a little bit of giggle juice, that's what my spirit friend calls it, giggle juice, when you have a little bit of alcohol, you feel brave, don't you? You think, oh, I'm going to give it a go. And then something goes wrong and a little bit of reason goes the wrong way. And then the fear sets in, that then creates the psychic power, and then it just snowballs from there. Now, can I be open with you? Is that okay to do so? Now, do you believe in ghosts? I do. Ghosts exist, but ghost is a memory. So if I spray aftershave on and get you all to breathe me in, and it's going to probably smell a brute, but you're going to breathe me in, and then I walk out the room, you'll still smell me, but I'm not there. I will leave a memory. So a ghost will never speak to you. A ghost will never kind of acknowledge you. It is a memory. You cannot change the memory. A spirit person will acknowledge you, and hopefully we'll have a conversation with you. And you go, oh, you little bleeder, what are you doing here? You know, can I help you? And they're like, oh, I'm not too sure. I've been told to come in and give you a look so I can see if I can work with you. You go, okay, no problem. Isn't life wonderful? I've had a busy day. How's your day been? And they go, oh, I've been dead. And you're like, oh, lovely. And you start building up that lovely relationship with that spirit person. And it's a spirit person, not an energy. Oh, could you imagine being called an energy? No, no, no. You work with an intelligence. They are spirit people. It's the spirit people you hope for are going to work with the Ouija board, not fear, and neither memory. But again, if there's any dusting of fear, don't touch it, because you're not going to achieve what you need to achieve. But if you feel comfortable then doing the table, then please do so. If you feel comfortable just sitting in a room and just opening your awareness up to the spirit people and say, are you there? And if so, join me. Let us talk and become friends. And then hopefully the spirit world will draw in. Now, the Ouija board seems to be one of the most easiest tools for the spirit people. It seems to be. I don't say it is, it seems to be. But the spirit world always has a team that is very conducive with communication. There are a lot of people in this world today are kissing goodbye to someone that they love, and their world is going to be broken from this moment on. And people in their desperation will look at any form of communication just to have that glimmer of hope, so you know that your loved one is not laying in the earth or is being sent off to become the phoenix that rises from the ashes. And they will look at the Ouija board, and in their grief and in their moment, hopefully it moves and just go, I love you, Mum. And then you know straight away who is talking. And then hopefully that mum and dad, or whoever they may be, would sit and then can be convinced that their son, their daughter, husband or wife, nan or grandpa is still there. And they learn to smile again. You'll never be happy, but you'll be a happier person. So I'm pleading a case with you. And I know that some of you will probably say, Scott, I don't necessarily agree. And I truly, truly respect that. But in my investigation, working with intelligence, for me, when the board starts to move and if it starts to swear, well, that's absolutely fine, my friend. Okay, so what else would you like to say to me? And then they may say something a little bit stronger, and I'll go, okay, no problem. Then I open my awareness to the spirit even further, and I'll say to Eric or Morning Star or Daniel, say, what's going on here? What's happening? And then they may say to me inwardly, be patient with this one. They're just finding their way. And then you start to work. So don't worry, I'm patient. Keep going, keep going. And then once they've run out of all little words to say like that, then we may start to get a little bit more information. But I have to say, for me to power the Ouija board, it doesn't seem to work as well. I need other people who are present, who are more seasoned in the communication, and it works a bit more better. I just create a power for them to work in. I find that when I go to work with the Ouija, that Eric Eric always says to me, this is like going backwards. It is a laborious task when we can speak to you and speak through you in a much more easier manner. So they don't necessarily allow me to work with it unless I'm allowed to go as a sitter to someone who's a bit more easier at it. Trumpets, yeah, that's in my corner, especially in the seances. And it is merely a stepping stone or a signpost for greater things to come. But at my very first appointment with John Austin, John, very old man, lovely man, very strict, very wise. I was invited to his house from his wife in the spirit world, who materialized in a seance. And as I got there and Brenda put on the kettle and John was talking to me about my life, he said, let's do the board. And I said, board? And he said, the Ouija board. And I went, no. And did you see my person? No. And he said, do you think it's going to hurt you? And I said, yes. And he picked up the board and hit me across the face with it. And he said, that's the only thing that's going to hurt you. Now put your finger on the glass. And I put my finger on the glass after the anger started to ooze away from me. And with Brenda and with John, it spelt out my name, Milligan, sit. And I said, when? It said, now. So really, I owe a lot to that stepping stone. Now, I've moved from that experience to sometimes, I'm not going to say all the time, but sometimes sitting in a room, voices are created around me, which can be heard. And it doesn't come from this, it comes from the independent direct voice, which is always then fired or fueled by using the seance trumpet. It may lift and form inside, or it may lift to excite the sitters, so that the spirit world can then draw more power from them. Isn't that interesting? Can draw more power from them. So they will use something to kind of excite you, and then they draw that energy from you to then maintain the link. And remember what I said, if there's fear, that they're going to kind of draw on that fear, and it's going to amplify it even worse. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, you can never be dragged along. Have you ever dragged someone along or been dragged along? You can't go to somewhere if you're inwardly not ready. And that's why, for me, the seance will always be open to anyone. But it's got to be your decision to come along. It's not wise having someone dragged kicking and screaming into the seance room, because all they're going to do is kick and scream to get out. Come along, and if there is fear, stay with me for 10 minutes while 3 songs are being played, and then allow the voices to come and allow the fear to melt away like stars in the morning sun. And whenever you sit, my little lovers, try not to gather pace and think it's an ego or think it's fear or anything like that. You are meeting people that have survived death, and you are lucky because you have the knowledge that you're not just dead. You're actually more alive than the living. And you're going to sit there, and through your senses, you're going to make sure that someone who comes into your life who is absolutely broken because they've said goodbye, and this little voice is going to make them smile again and say, I am still alive. I am here to bring all that was back to you. Please, please, please don't think of me as being dead. And that's where you become the healer between the two worlds. You're healing the need of the bereaved, and you're healing the need of that little lover who's saying, can you please help me? And just remind all that I've loved, I'm still there. And if they have to use the board because the person can't afford to go to a good medium or can't go here or there because they're just so devastated, then let it be done. Let it be done. So before we kind of spit in different people's faces and say, oh, that's rubbish or that's rubbish, let's just look. It is a tool. It is merely something which is made of wood or letters or glass and prettiness, as I've shown you already. You put your finger on the glass of a planchette and you open your awareness to the spirit world and say, I'm here and I'm patient. If you can, step close and dust my mind and hold my heart while you focus and try to let me know through the medium of the spirit board. Let me hear your voice. And then you may find it start to spin after 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes or an hour. You can't put a time on it. And then it may just indicate to you that the start has happened and how the journey will now change for you forever. How awesome would that be? Now, remember, as I said, this is only my view, my little darlings, but we hear so often about people having different experiences, and then you kind of focus on them and you can see that their experience has left their mark on the aura, because everything we do in life will leave the mark within the atmosphere around us. And as psychic, we can go in, touch it, and then come back out and then just share a thought or two. As I said, if there's fear when it comes to the Ouija board, thank you for listening, and thank you for giving me an opportunity just to share another view with you. I don't want you to have fear. Our friends are so wonderful and so fabulous. There was there was 2 ladies that materialized once in Colin's seance, and they were Welsh. And they went, I'm going to do a Welsh accent, which is probably going to go wrong. So we're sitting in the room singing, and all of a sudden you've heard these footsteps. And there was more than just a pair of feet. There was more. So there's 2 people wandering around. They go, oh, they're posh in here. They got carpet. And that's me insulting every Welsh person, but that's my version of it. Oh, they're posh in here, they got carpet. And then he said, hello, friend, can you hear us? Oh, they're having one of their spooky meetings. One of the voices went, what do I do? The other one said, ignore them. So we're like, hey, friend, we can hear you. You know, well done, we are here. And they went over to the mantelpiece, and you started hearing them fiddle with the objects on the mantelpiece. And he said, oh, put it in your bag, she said. The other voice turned round and said, I didn't bring it with me. Where did you leave it, she said. Oh, over there. And then you heard them scurry off. And that was it. And I thought it was funny because they said the spooky meeting. And that was even from the spirit world. We weren't able to change their views. But there was no fear from us. There was always a welcome door. And said, look, all is welcome. Nell used to call us all filthy sinners. Filthy sinners we were. But that was her personality. We used to have a man who didn't like people who wanted to love who they wanted to love. And they wouldn't talk to people like myself or Colin. But we didn't get angry with them. We just sat there and we listened. Okay, that's fine. Let me plead my case to you. And you say, look, do you know, are you grateful for the experience you've just had? Yes. And did it help you? Yes. Well, it happened through Colin, the person you don't necessarily like. And he's asked nothing in return. And then slowly, it started to change. And before I leave you, let me just speak to you one more time about an experience that happened in Colin's seance when Dolly, the drag queen, and Dolly was the compere from the spirit world. Dolly was the hostess with the mostess. He was a performer during the war. He did a show called Soldiers in Skirts. And when he was demobbed, he travelled the world in this show. And as Dolly was coming to the end of his life, he took his own life. He took fever barbiton and he drew himself a bath and sliced his wrists open with a baked bean can. And he always said, I came to heaven on a baked bean can. And we used to laugh. And whenever Dolly would materialise, we'd say, Dolly, what have you got on? He'd say, something gorgeous, dear. But Dolly was there to create us to laugh. And as we laughed and as we joked, she brought through loved ones. And one time, as she was jeering us all up and creating the power ready for the loved ones to come forward, someone shouted out, Dolly, you're a low entity. And I was like, oh. And it kind of hit all of us in the room, because this is our friend you're talking, who's a low entity. And you heard Dolly mutter under her breath, low entity am I, low entity am I. And she trotted back towards the cabinet where Colin was sitting, and then re-emerged, and in her arms was a baby. And as Dolly was walking across the room muttering, saying low entity, he handed this child, this baby, over to the person that muttered and shouted out low entity. And it was their child. Dolly then kind of stood back towards where Colin was seated and carried on muttering, low entity am I, low entity, and kind of got over it. And for a few minutes, this person who threw that stone of insult to Dolly was able to hold the child, their child, hug the child, kiss the child. And then there was a muttering from another voice, and Dolly said, we're going to have to take him back now. Give him a kiss, do what you need to do. And then Dolly picked up the baby and walked it back into the cabinet, came back out and said, low entity am I, and told the sitter that their child was being looked after by the grandparents, mum and dad, you know, mum and dad to the sitter there, and will attend school and do what they need. And any time that this person came back, they will do their best to bring the child back. So you would see the child grow within the development of the spirit world. And it made all of us look at things differently. Some people may not agree with our lifestyle. Some people may not agree with who we are. But at the end of the day, deep within us, there's the light and the power of kindness and goodness that we wish to share with the world. And if a medium has to use the Ouija board, then so be it. I actually found when I was doing table tilting that when I placed my hands upon the table, I would feel this over sense of tiredness, and I would slip into the presence of the spirit, which then opened me up to the trance states, and I started to then speak what the table wanted to say. When people do the Ouija board and it's being worked properly, and it's from the intelligence of the spirit world, I get a feeling of who is there. And so inwardly, I'm developing my sensitivity to the atmosphere, what's taking place. So it is a development step. But again, I come back to you and say, if there is fear, walk away. Some people are comfortable sitting with in a demonstration of a seance. Some people are more comfortable sitting in a one-to-one environment or a public gallery, a public demonstration. Not everyone's going to be comfortable, and that's why we have 4 fingers and a thumb. Each finger is different size and has a different use, but work together, and we can do good things. If they don't work together, then it may slow what we need to do. So I hope I've pleaded my case when it comes to the Ouija board and seance trumpets. They are merely a tool. It is how we work with it, how we use it, and how we share that love of eternity. So thank you for letting me bore the socks off you. And thank you so much for being part of this page. And I hope in whatever way I've pleaded my case to not allow fear to creep in when it is time to communicate with our spirit friends, their friends. And with your friends, there's your loved ones. And your loved ones will never want to see you cry. They will always want to see you happy. They survived death. They survived probably the biggest challenge we all are facing. That uncertainty of how we leave this world. I don't fear death. I fear the process of death. I wouldn't mind being electrocuted in my shower while I was doing, I don't know, making toast. You know, wouldn't that be wonderful? Wouldn't that be a wonderful piece of evidence for coming through a medium? I've got a man here who's tattooed to the hills, butch, strong, muscles everywhere, who died in the shower with a toaster. Wouldn't that be wonderful evidence to whoever goes to accept it? But I don't think that's in my destiny. So, my little lovers, take care, all the best. Thank you again. And remember, it's okay to not agree. But I thank you for letting me share my breath and share my thoughts with you. Take care, all the best, have fun, speak to you soon. Bye-bye.